Tonight, I join the RCGS family in mourning the loss of our honorary president, Alex Trebek. Alex was a great and proud Canadian, held in affection by millions across North America and beyond. He was someone in whom we could trust. He succeeded in making our complex and varied world seem that much closer and familiar. He entertained and educated us all. And for those of us associated with RCGS, his passion for geography, science, and discovery will be remembered fondly. On behalf of the people of Ontario, I express sincere condolences to his family and friends, and thank him for enriching our cultural lives.
Thank you, Your Honour. I am speaking to you from the Alex Trebek Theatre at 50 Sussex Drive, the headquarters of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society. Like all of you, I'm devastated by the news of the passing of Alex Trebek, a great friend of the Society and of geography. I would like you all to take a moment to reflect on the contribution of Alex, his courage, his dignity, and the immense contribution he made to the Society and its future.
As we have all seen by now, this COVID-19 crisis has not only affected our families, our communities, and our country, but indeed the whole world. It has dramatically impacted our populations, our economies, our cultures, and yes, believe it or not, even our climate. So it strikes me that geography is perhaps even more important now than it has ever been, because it can help us gain an appreciation for the natural world around us and how to interact with and better utilize our planet and its resources. In other words, it provides a framework for how we care for the Earth.
Welcome to the 2020 Royal Canadian Geographical Society's first ever fellow show. My name is Aaliyah Jasmine, and as your host this evening, it is my pleasure to thank you for joining us in celebration of Canada and its amazing geography. Today is not only my birthday, but also Geographic Information Systems Day, so happy Geography Awareness Week to all of you. Thank you to Her Honor, the Honourable Elizabeth Dowdeswell, and RCGS Chief Executive Officer John Geiger for those moving tributes to Alex Trebek that started off this show. I'm hosting this evening overlooking my home in Los Angeles from the Santa Monica Mountains, which is located on the ancestral territories of the Tongva and the Chumash. And we further acknowledge and recognize that the Society's work reaches across all of the distinct First Nations, Métis homelands, and Inuit Nunangat. And for this, we are grateful. A number of people from the Society's wider family have also shared land acknowledgements from where they're joining us tonight, including musician Adrian Sutherland from Ontario's Attawapiskat First Nation. Sutherland's video for his song Politician Man, which features the giant floor map linked with the Indigenous Peoples Atlas of Canada, will bookend our greetings. Here are just some of the lands that we're all coming from tonight.
Danse. I'm National Chief Perry Bellegarde of the Assembly of First Nations, and I offer my greetings to you all from Ottawa, the sacred ancestral lands of my Algonquin brothers and sisters.
Wade Huhueda, Phyllis Webstad Rensquest. Hello everyone, my name is Phyllis Webstad. I welcome you to the 2020 Fellow Show here in Shawetmuk'uluk.
Good evening, my name is Gavin Fitch, President of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society. And I am welcoming you to the Fellow Show from the traditional territories of the Treaty 7 nations in southern Alberta and the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3.
Bonsoir, mon nom est Mylène Paquette, je suis exploratrice en résidence de la Société géographique royale du Canada. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue au Fellow Show, depuis les territoires autochtones des Goniengahaga, qui n'a jamais été cédé. Je reconnais la nation des Goniengahaga comme gardienne des terres et des eaux sur lesquelles j'enregistre ce segment. Bonne soirée!
Hello, Wache. My name is Adrian Sutherland, and I'm welcoming you to the Fellow Show from Attawabskat First Nation, located in the traditional lands of the Muskegowuk Cree within the Treaty 9 territory. Politician Man is a video we released last year, just before Canada's federal election. We had some studio performances, and our video director, Justin Stevenson, wanted to combine the performance footage with images of Canada. He came across the Indigenous Peoples Atlas of Canada, which shows all the different Indigenous territories across Canada. We asked Canadian Geographic if we could use the map, and they said yes. It worked out perfectly for the video we wanted to create, and we couldn't be more happy with how it turned out. I hope you enjoy it.
All right, we're ready. Ready, girl.
I get tired sometimes. I can't take no more. You still have my heart in you still want more. There's no getting round. There's no hiding friends. Once they cut your soul, they'll come back and do it again. Hey, Mr. Politician Man, what you done for me lately? Whoa. Hey, Mr. Politician Man, won't you break me off a piece someday? Whoa, whoa. You try to lay the blame. You're like a do no action fool. You try to garner fame for your next election due. We need to listen, we need to change. We're sick and tired of the same old games. We need to listen, we need to change. We're sick and tired of the same old games. Hey, Mr. Politician Man, what you done for me lately? Whoa. Hey, Mr. Politician Man, won't you break me off a piece someday? Whoa. Lying to my face, lying to yourself, lying to the people you said that you would help. Mr. Politician Man, what about the ones you forgot? Hey, Mr. Politician Man, what you done for me lately? Whoa. Hey, Mr. Politician Man, won't you break me off a piece someday? Whoa. Hey, Mr. Politician Man, what you done for me lately? Whoa. Hey, Mr. Politician Man, won't you break me off a piece someday? Whoa. Politician Man, politician man, politician man, politician man, politician man.
How great is it that our Indigenous Peoples Atlas of Canada's giant floor map is showing up in people's music videos now? Very cool. Thank you, Adrian. As many of you know, we typically gather in Ottawa at this time of year each year for the College of Fellows annual dinner. It is a yearly opportunity to reconnect with old friends and with colleagues, and it's also a chance to reflect on the incredible growth of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society and how each of us, as part of the RCGS community, have contributed to it. While we're all intrepid explorers, a global pandemic has stopped us from gathering in person this year, but not from celebrating the society. And so we still have an unforgettable evening planned for all of you. I'd like to encourage all of you to share photos on social media to show us how you're enjoying tonight's fun. Je vous encourage à vous partager votre photo de ce soir sur les médias sociaux et ainsi montrer comment vous profitez de cette soirée. You can tag at RCGS_SGRC and at Cangio on Twitter and Instagram, and also use the hashtag FellowsShow20. It is also important to note that evenings like this would not be possible without the generosity and commitment of many key partners. Our society is fortunate to have a strong and diverse group of corporate partners, many of whom have been active in their support of tonight's show. So here's a quick clip to acknowledge who've helped make this evening possible.
We would like to thank our presenting sponsor, KCK Global Limited, for their continued support and partnership. Thank you for helping us to achieve our goal of making Canada better known to Canadians and to the world. We are proud and thankful for our relationships with St. Joseph Communications, Distical Magazine Distribution Services, and Brown Trout Publishers, all of whom are sponsoring tonight's show. We are also pleased to acknowledge our travel partners. Thank you to Maple Leaf Adventures, Exodus Travels, LeBoat, Adventure Canada, Nahani Wild, Ankadi, and many more. Explore the diverse range of travel lots available for auction at rcgsauction.ca.
Okay, now I really need your undivided attention for this moment. À présent, j'ai besoin de toute votre attention pour un moment. As part of tonight's event, we are running an online silent auction. All the money raised this evening will support vital RCGS programming, such as providing free geographic learning resources to more than 25,000 members of Canadian geographic education, allowing world-renowned explorers to embark on and share videos, photographs, and stories from their incredible expeditions, funding crucial Canadian geographic research, and bringing Canadian geography to more than 4 million enthusiasts a month through Canadian Geographic's platforms. So to bid on items in our auction, please visit rcgsauction.ca. You can scroll through the site, view all of the amazing items available until Sunday, November 22nd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's a minute before midnight, Cinderella. So when you find an item you'd like to bid on, simply register with your email address and a password, and then just begin bidding. If you need some help, please send an email to the Society's Director of Development and Partnerships, Jason Muscant. His email is muscant@rcgs.org. It's on the screen right now, and you'll see dozens of extraordinary items and opportunities for excursions, art, one-of-a-kind experiences, including a digital dinner with Margaret Atwood. So please take time to scroll through our auction items and make your bids. You'll not only help the Society continue to fulfill its mandate, but you may also end up with a private Zoom concert with survivorman Les Stroud. Not bad, right? In just a moment, we will be joined by RCGS Chief Executive Officer John Geiger from the Society's headquarters in Ottawa. But first, here's a preview of what's to come tonight.
Thank you, Leah. We are incredibly excited to have you join the Society as a fellow, and we're equally delighted to have you hosting the Fellow Show this evening. Tonight's program gives us the opportunity to acknowledge and welcome the distinguished women like you and men who have been elected into the Society's College of Fellows. The college has included such luminaries as Nobel Prize winner Frederick Banting, the co-discoverer of insulin, pioneering anthropologist and explorer Diogenes Jeunesse, and A.Y. Jackson, a leading member of the renowned Group of Seven. This evening, we're delighted to announce a special new honorary fellow of the Society for his passionate commitment to our environment, including his government's leadership on climate change, its historic investments in Indigenous-led nature conservation and Indigenous Guardians programs, and its action on ocean conservation and protection, as well as its leadership in reducing plastic waste. we welcome the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, to the College of Fellows.
Hello everyone, bonjour à tous. I want to thank the Royal Canadian Geographical Society for this honorary fellowship. It's truly an honor to accept this in recognition of our government's work on conservation and protecting the environment. And I share this with Indigenous communities, young Canadians, activists, and all Canadians who are helping to protect our land and oceans and who are partnering with us in the fight against climate change. But our work is just starting. As a country, we need to do more to fight climate change and protect our natural world. Because with our environment increasingly under threat, we cannot delay taking action to protect plant and animal species, restore the balance of nature, and sustain our planet. Voilà pourquoi on a fait des investissements sans précédent pour donner suite à notre engagement de protéger la biodiversité, accroître le développement durable et lutter contre les changements climatiques. Et on a fait tout ça en saisissant les opportunités économiques liées aux mesures pour le climat. C'est aussi pourquoi on a mis en place un juste prix sur la pollution, de manière à réduire les émissions et à remettre l'argent dans les poches des familles canadiennes. On a également pris d'importantes mesures pour interdire les plastiques à usage unique néfaste. Et on s'est fixé une cible pour 2020 consistant à protéger 10% des aires marines du Canada, une cible qu'on a atteinte bien plus tôt que prévu en faisant passer nos aires protégées de 1% à environ 14% en 5 ans seulement. Mais il reste tellement de travail à faire. We're working on a plan to conserve 25% of Canada's land and 25% of Canada's oceans by 2025. And we're working towards 30% of each by 2030, which is in line with the global targets to conserve the world's lands and oceans. We're also planning to legislate our goal to create a net zero emission economy by 2050. At the same time, we're exploring natural ways to fight climate change, like planting 2 billion trees. And as we continue our work to create a healthier, cleaner, and more resilient Canada, we will do so by collaborating with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities. We will root our decisions in science and seek out local perspectives and solutions. We only have one shot at leaving a cleaner and more sustainable world for the next generation. We need to be ambitious, and we need to take bold action together. That's exactly what Canada will continue to do. Thank you again for this honorary fellowship. Encore une fois, merci.
Thank you, Prime Minister. It is truly an honor to count you among our fellowship, which also includes a number of other former Prime Ministers from both sides of the aisle. Tonight, we also have the honor of recognizing 54 new RCGS Fellows. We acknowledge the achievements of new Fellows in being elected to join the College and applaud both you and current Fellows. You're incredibly critical to the success of our mission. Congratulations to you all. The College of Fellows has always embodied the long-standing values and tenets of the Society, the determination to build, the courage to explore, and a steadfast love of the country. Explorer Mario Rigby embodies these characteristics as much as any of our incoming Fellows, and we've asked him to provide a special welcome to the 2020 College of Fellows inductees this evening. Mario, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you, John. It is an honor to be counted amongst the Society's esteemed College of Fellows, and I am excited to join you all on the Fellow Show this evening. Hello, my name is Mario Rigby, and I am an eco-explorer. My main focuses are human-powered adventures, such as kayaking across the Great Lakes in North America, cycling across the continent, and also walking the entire length of Africa from Cape Town to Cairo. As a modern-day explorer, my focuses have really been on shining light on environmental and social injustices and giving a voice to people who otherwise would not have this voice. I'm also focusing on more inclusion and diversity in the outdoor spaces and the exploration world. It is an honor to have my work recognized and to be in the same space as like-minded individuals who are pushing the advent in scientific research and expeditions. And with this new chapter in my life, I can push the advent of what I'm already doing even further. To all of the fellows, old and new, I applaud you. Tonight is a celebration of our accomplishments and the important work of the Royal Canadian Geographic Society. So please take a moment to recognize and celebrate your own outstanding achievements. May we all see each other again in safer times.
Merci Mario et félicitations. Je suis le lieutenant-colonel Carl Gauthier des Forces armées canadiennes, fellow et membre du Conseil des gouverneurs de la Société. I've had the honor for many years now of being involved in the Society's annual medal ceremony. Chaque année, la Société reconnaît les individus et les organismes pour leur réalisation dans le champ de la géographie. Des innovateurs de tous les domaines, explorateurs, géographes, chercheurs et inventeurs, artistes et enseignants, ont reçu les prestigieuses médailles de la Société depuis la création de la toute première, la médaille Massé, en 1959. Au fil des ans, la Société a honoré des personnalités comme l'anthropologue d'avant-garde Diamond Jenness, l'explorateur de l'Arctique canadien Henry Larson et la célèbre auteure Margaret Atwood, parmi beaucoup d'autres sommités canadiennes du domaine de la géographie. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we were not able to recognize our medalists in person this year. However, a number of them provided special messages at our annual general meeting yesterday, and some others will do likewise during our show this evening. Et maintenant, pour présenter les récipiendaires de médailles de la Société géographique royale du Canada pour 2020, j'ai le privilège d'accueillir le président de la Société, Gavin Fitch.
Thank you, Carl. It is my utmost pleasure now to announce the 2020 Society medalists for their incredible contributions to geography and to Canada. Without further ado, please join me in congratulating the following recipients of this year's RCGS honors. Congratulations again to all of our medalists. Félicitations à nos médaillés.
Hello, folks. My name is Jason Edmonds. I'm an expedition leader with Adventure Canada, and I'm very honored to be the recipient of the Marty Bergman Medal for Arctic Leadership. I'm very proud to be from the North, and to be able to carry out my work there is a privilege. I'd like to thank all of those who nominated me, as well as the Royal Canadian Geographical Society for this amazing honor.
Hello, everyone. Bonsoir. Bonjour. It is with gratitude and humility and a little surprise that I accept the Louis Kamokak Medal. That it's given in the name of an Inuk and an educator makes it very special to me. What a great ambassador Louis was for this society, and what a great ambassador this society is for our country. This land of vast and diverse geographies, histories, cultures, and peoples is a proud leader in making sense of the world around us. Such a mission has never been more important, and I commend all of you associated with the Royal Canadian Geographical Society for serving as North Stars through your science, research, and support. Thank you, and I wish you a most enjoyable evening.
My name is Nelly Taptakusura. I've recently retired as Commissioner of Honourable. I am humbled for the distinct honor of receiving the Louis Kamokak Medal. Thank you, Royal Canadian Geographic Society, for the distinction. It was an honor sharing with Nunavumil and Canadians of my Inuit culture. As Inuit are deeply connected to the land, it keeps our culture and heritage alive. The importance of this is to ensure the Inuit Kauyimayatokangit knowledge continues to be acknowledged, appreciated, and utilized to support geoliteracy. Thank you so much. I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you, Gavin, and congratulations again to all this year's Society medalists. And kudos too to all the new members of the College of Fellows. I am incredibly delighted and proud to have joined such a distinguished group, and I am very much looking forward to sharing more about my RCGS journey with my audiences. Now, before we get too much further into the show, I want to remind you to be sure to check in on our online silent auction at rcgsauction.ca. There are some amazing items still up for grabs, including a personalized portrait by RCGS fellow and celebrated Canadian contemporary artist, Chris Cran. In just a moment, we'll also be joined by the first Canadian woman to go to space and the first neurologist in space, Honorary Vice President of the Royal Canadian Geographic Society, Roberta Bondar.
Dans un instant, nous aurons le plaisir de la compagnie de la toute première Canadienne et la première neurologue à voyager dans l'espace, vice-présidente honoraire de la Société géographique royale du Canada, Roberta Bondar.
It is great to join you in this disrupted world of 2020. We are all exploring how to manage and survive. I'm honored to be a fellow of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society and appreciate having the opportunity to be with you to share some of my thoughts. We are mindful of the millions of Canadians at home and worldwide who want to connect with their planet in ways unthought of before COVID-19. This pandemic is our globally shared history that was unthinkable for most people prior to the COVID challenge of 2020. This pandemic is no longer something that only past generations suffered through lack of knowledge and treatment. We are deep into it, with potentially and real devastating personal, professional, economic, and social consequences. All of us look for leadership and inspiration. The RCGS connects us through stories of natural, cultural, and social heritage. The Society brings history to life even as we create new moments that mark our strength and resilience. We can look to the RCGS Fellows for clarity and creativity that is embodied in the craft of commitment, the stuff of legends, and the threads of resilience. Ah, resilience. It is about how we measure up to the expectations that we have of ourselves, how we move from where we were in the past to where we are now to where we will be in the future. It gives us the energy needed to be agile and flexible, to survive and thrive in times of disruptive change. And it reminds us that we are not alone. We need each other. We look to each other for encouragement, strength, and problem solving. And we expect that from ourselves. We cannot be resilient at everything. And we define what we need day to day. We need to be agile and remain ever vigilant. Agility comes from diversity of thought and experience. And the good news is that we can reconfigure ourselves and step into a new me. We all have this pandemic in common, although we all have had different challenges within it. We have found ways that work better than others for each of us. As a physician, I see the dedication and commitment of healthcare team members who are challenged by the threat of disease implications, fatigue, and misinformation. I marvel at the resilience of individuals who share life moments and creativity on social media, the teachers, homeschoolers, and the students who bolster the positivity that we all need to face the mental health challenges unearthed by this novel virus called COVID. The spirit and joy derived from groups that sing, play music, and dance. The online response to keep us connected through valuable science, social and cultural content. The creative ways to keep us engaged in life. As an astronaut, my extraterrestrial view of Earth guides me to think about and learn from wildlife that has to be resilient to survive in the face of the challenges of a changing climate. The seasons in Canada remind us of the natural beauty of life in its response to sunlight, temperature, and moisture. The biodiversity that we expect to continue to live on land, in the air, and in the waters has much to teach us. My love of all things avian keeps me energized in my fieldwork on migratory birds to create stories that will inspire us all to minimize human impact on their extraordinary lives so that they will survive with us. Resiliency in Canada is a shared value, and we must support each other in all our communities, coast to coast to coast, to become that just and responsive society that is our vision. This is a time for actions that keep us healthy, a time for diving more into what that means for our mental and physical health, a time for resilience through shared reflection and action. The Royal Canadian Geographical Society leads by example to inspire all generations that we have much that we can do and become. Stay well and stay safe.
Thank you, Dr. Bondar, for sharing such insightful observations that are also very pertinent to our current times. I should also take a quick moment to thank Dr. Bondar for lending her endorsement to an upcoming RCGS donation campaign. And as you know, the Society's phenomenal programs are largely made possible by the generous support of our partners and donors. And you can make a donation anytime. Now's good too, though, if you want to do it right now at rcgs.org/donate. Now, we have some more special messages from individuals honored this evening with Society medals.
À présent, nous avons des messages uniques de la part d'individus qui ont été honorés ce soir grâce aux médailles de la Société.
Hello from the shores of the Gatineau River here in Chelsea, Quebec, on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. It's a tremendous honor to be the 2020 recipient of the Alex Trebek Medal for Geographic Literacy, made poignant by the recent passing of Mr. Trebek, an adored and distinguished Canadian. I will treasure this award in Alex's name, and I want to thank the Royal Canadian Geographic Society. As the national coordinator of the Canadian Ocean Literacy Coalition, I've had the privileged opportunity over the past 2 years to work with thousands of Canadians to co-examine our relationship with the ocean and the many waterways leading to it. Through our different cultural and regional perspectives and lived experiences, we are co-developing a national ocean literacy strategy to be launched in 2021 in time for the start of the United Nations Ocean Decade. As Canadians, we have a civic responsibility to ensure that our behaviors, decisions, and actions make certain healthy waterways and a global ocean for future generations to come. Merci encore.
Hello, my name is David Jones. I am a mountaineer and guidebook author. I am surprised and honored to be receiving this year's Sir Christopher Ondaatje's Medal from the Royal Canadian Geographical Society. Climbing has allowed me to meet many amazing fellow explorers around the world and share wilderness experiences. I wish to thank all of my friends who have accompanied me on various trips in the Western Cordillera over more than 5 decades.
My name is John Small, and I'm a professor in the Department of Biology at Queen's University, where I also hold the Canada Research Chair in Environmental Change. I'm absolutely thrilled to be this year's Massey medalist, and I'd like to thank the Royal Canadian Geographical Society for this great honor. I've had the privilege of sampling lakes and ponds across this country, all 10 provinces, all 3 territories, and up to the northern tip of Ellesmere Island, even Ward Hunt Island. We truly live on a beautiful planet and in a beautiful country. Let's keep pushing our politicians to keep using evidence-based policy and keep this planet beautiful. Thank you very much.
Congratulations again to all of the 2020 Society medalists. So before we continue with the show, I want to remind you all again to be sure to check in on our online silent auction at rcgsauction.ca. This year, we have some very exclusive opportunities available, including naming a Blandings turtle at the Toronto Zoo. And I'm just saying, I think Aaliyah Jasmine is a great name for a turtle. Now, our next guests, both of whom hardly need any introduction, are going to keep things wild. Legendary outdoorsman Les Stroud produced 7 seasons of his incredible Survivor Man series, testing his mettle against the elements in the most remote parts of the world for days at a time in nearly 50 episodes. And joining him is fellow RCGS fellow and renowned author Margaret Atwood. Her list of accomplishments is far too long to even summarize, so here are just 2 of her most recent achievements. Her latest novel, The Testaments, was the co-winner of the 2019 Booker Prize. It is the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, which is now, of course, an award-winning television series. So what brings this duo together tonight? A discussion of unusual stuff that they've eaten in the woods. No, I'm serious. Take it away, Les and Margaret.
What is the weirdest thing that you have eaten during a Survivor Man episode?
Well, weird is, I mean, we have to qualify weird, don't we? And also, I think a lot of it, ends up depending on the motivation for why I might eat something. I think
to stay alive, yeah.
Yeah.
To stay alive or possibly to practice for some occasion when you might have to eat it.
Well, exactly. I think sometimes it was thought maybe that it would be more like sensationalism, but in fact, it was a more matter of, hey, if you're really stuck and really alone and really lost, you aren't going to be whipping together a bow and arrow with some string and a bobby pin and taking down a deer. You're going to be groveling. No,
Oh, darn.
not me.
What about a porcupine?
To answer your question out of the starting gate, the weirdest thing is probably a tie between a few things. A big fat grub in Australia and Indonesia, and then of course live scorpions. That's weird.
You ate a live scorpion.
Yeah, but what I mean, knowing that your dad was
Why did it have to be live?
What's that?
Why did it have to be a live scorpion?
It didn't, but my instructor at the time said, you know, you can eat them alive as well if you really need to. I guess if you know what? If you didn't have a fire and you knew you could eat them alive by taking off the poison part, I suppose that makes a lot of sense, because then you're actually, you know, doing it for a real reason kind of thing.
Suppose it was the north of Canada. Yeah?
Let me ask you, because knowing that your dad was an entomologist, did he force you? I mean, he was studying insects, so did you guys have to eat anything weird when you were growing up out in the woods?
Well, there was a little vogue for chocolate-covered ants at one point, but we didn't eat those in the woods. I, on the other hand, went about eating all of the things that you might eat, just to see what they would be like. So that would include freshwater clams, really quite small, parts of bulrushes, lily pad, those yellow lilies, the seeds of them, you can eat those, and you can eat eggs and larvae of ants if you're quite stuck. You can dig up ants' nests and eat those. They're not very big is the problem. So acorns, you've probably eaten those. You have to boil them a lot. And there's a lot of plants that you can eat, and any puffball, as long as it really is a puffball.
Yeah, that's key. I'm actually heading out right after this. As a matter of fact, I'm walking about 300 yards, and you know I've got this shameless plug, my new show Wild Harvest, but I'm actually headed out to pick acorns and pine nuts for filming that. So
yes. So what are you going to do with the acorns, Les?
Well, the long story is, or the end of the story is, they end up on my plate as a pancake.
Yeah, so you grind them, you boil them, and then you grind them into flour.
No, you know what, Margaret? I don't boil them. The problem with the boiling is that you remove some of the nutrition and some of the flavor. The cold leaching I find is better. It's a little more relaxing. So I'll grind them down, dry them, grind them down, put them in a bowl, cover them with water, and then I watch to see the water turn black. And then I pour that off and I put in more fresh water. And I do that over about 6 days. And it's
okay. Tell us why you do that. What part do you want to get rid of?
The tannins. The tannins are horrifyingly bitter. And here's the little thing I learned is that, do you know that it's thought now by scientists that squirrels take them, nibble them a bit, bury them, and they're doing that to leach out the tannins. So the brain leaches it out. They come back later and eat the acorn with some of the tannins gone. Because the tannins, I've made myself sick because of the tannins. It's really horrid if you don't get rid of it. Yeah.
Okay, so what about a porcupine? How would you prepare that?
Interesting animal you bring up, the porcupine, because I've often taught that in a survival situation, this is not good. Anybody hearing this is not going to like this. It's one of the critters, if you will, that you could catch and eat without cooking, and it has the least amount of diseases you may catch. You may get something like trichinosis or something like that from raccoons. No, I wouldn't. I'd want to cook, and I've been made sick before by creatures that weren't properly cooked. But porcupines are one of the safer. If you're in a survival situation and you really must take its life and you kill a porcupine, you could actually very likely eat it if you were unable to cook it and probably still be okay.
So would you eat a skunk, Les?
I'd eat just about anything. You know what I say is if 4 days without food, and anybody would eat just about, if you're in front of me eating a skunk and I haven't eaten for 4 days, you've just made it look good. You've got to eat it. So give me 4 days without food, I'll eat just about anything, I suppose, which is not the way I grew up. So I was picky kid. But.
So I've got this really old book called The Art of Survival that you know as well.
I do.
So
yeah.
It's mostly about people who didn't survive. It has a lot of disaster stories in it.
Yeah.
It also has a few good, helpful hints. So one of these guys was in a lifeboat, adrift in a lifeboat, and he managed to catch some seagulls by using little bits of tinfoil as an attractive lure. And it has a few nuggets like that. But you've written quite a lot about people who made it out of really difficult situations by a combination of knowledge, willpower, luck, possibly good or bad equipment. And you've written a book in which you weight those factors. So you can have no knowledge but a lot of willpower, and that. But if you have a lot of knowledge and no willpower, you're less likely to get out.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, originally it was a device that the publisher said, can you bracket these things in a bit? And so sure, it came out of that, but then it all made sense to me in the end, because if I really looked at a story like Chris McCandless from the End of the Wild fame, or the Dougal Robertson family, I think, if I remember correctly, like 172 days on a life raft, or 70, something ridiculous like that. And when you step back and look at a lot of the survival stories that exist, you can come down to, loosely speaking, those 4 elements, if you will, of survival, because we all have a certain amount of knowledge or no knowledge at all. And our will to live, that's a very strange one, because it feels a little larger than life. And how do you even measure that? You have to kind of look from outside at the experience and go, boy, that person's got a strong will. And I personally wanted to point out Kit, because I've seen that sometimes it just makes a difference between having a pack of matches or not having a pack of matches. So I think Kit is really important. It's not a geeky Boy Scouty, Girl Scouty kind of thing. It's actually, no, this is really important, if you have the right knife. But the thing that was weird to kind of delve into was the luck side of it. Because how do you find luck? Well, for me, if I looked at somebody like Yossi Ginsberg, who was lost in the jungle, and they recently did a Daniel Radcliffe movie about him, or the Dougal Robertson family, completely different situations. Yossi Ginsberg had the worst luck. You could, every day something else happened. The man slipped down a muddy embankment and impaled his anus after 9 days of surviving. It's like, dude, would you just slow down? Like, the worst luck in the world, and this after not eating all that time. Then you look at the Dougal Robertson story, all those days in life raft. Every time they needed water, it rained. Every time they needed a food, a big old sea turtle came up and started nibbling at the side of the raft, and they picked it up. And I was like, are you kidding me? They could have easily perished. So I thought luck was sort of the 4th and final element that mattered a lot. There's so many variables, as you know, in life in general, but there's a lot of variables in survival stuff. I mean, one of the worst questions I can get from doing like a radio interview or TV interview, for example, is, what's the number one thing you need to carry with you when you go, for survival? It's like, well, that depends. Where are I? Where am I? Am I in the snow? Am I on a tropical island? Where am I? Like, you can't pin it down to one thing. So those four elements kind of gave me a platform to approach everybody's story on, sort of thing.
So you've got a new book?
I do.
Tell us about that. Hold it up.
Really? Okay, well, this is the advanced reader's copy, which you're very familiar with. This is with Anik Press in Toronto. This is my new, I just got this yesterday.
So what does it say? Let me see the cover. Yeah. Wild Outside Around the World with Survivor Man. And then lower it a bit so I can see the illustration. That's a picture of you.
Yeah, supposedly.
And some animals.
Yep.
And what's the story?
So, as you're aware,
is it a graphic novel?
No, it's let's call it an adventure book. And what I do is I've taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's 12 stories from my world of being Survivor Man. Okay. And in working with Anik, who they're wonderful to work with, we did the same thing. We separated into 4 things: prepare, observe, react, and adapt. And I would take a story like being chased by a moose up a tree, or reaching into a bird's nest in Kalahari and finding a Cape Cobra up there, or slipping down a mountainside in Norway. And I would take that and tell that story. And it's roughly for, I want to say, 7 to 12-year-olds, I believe that they're going after. So I've just finished it, and it'll come out in March. It's kind of more riffing off of what I've done in the world of survival, but this time for kids, which of course, in the end, as you know, Margaret, from other times we've talked, I mean, in the end, all I've really ever been about is connecting people to nature. And the survival stuff, it's as sensational as it is fun, but I want to get kids, I want to get kids back out in nature, like your childhood.
So speaking of snakes, did you eat the Cape Cobra?
No, funny story about that though. And I've shown it, we put it in the film part. We knew this, so we found the cobra up inside a weaver bird nest. We just happened to know there was a man that was a snake expert, a serpentologist. So we went and got him, brought him back. He comes with his little lever with the little grappy thing, you know, for reaching up and grabbing snakes. And he reaches in, he pulls the snake out, this huge 7-foot, 6-foot long, golden colored Cape Cobra falls on the sand. 4 grown men are scattering like just scared children. We're like, we're all like running. But he starts, you know, manipulating it and moving it around. While he's doing this, he's talking. He goes, well, I don't want to, and he's got a bit of an accent. He says, I don't want to play with it for too long because I've had a few beers tonight. But we're just like, oh my God, we're with a drunk serpentologist and he's got a Cape Cobra in front of us. So we didn't eat that, but I have eaten rattlesnake and garter snakes. And if you want the taste test, I will say that if you must eat snake, pick a snake that eats rodents, not a snake that eats frogs, because it tastes better.
Okay, so the rattlesnake gets your vote.
Rattlesnake gets my vote because it eats rodents. The ones that eat frogs are just, as you would imagine, they're kind of fishy. Fishy taste.
Yes. Okay, I've never eaten a garter snake, but I've have eaten a rattlesnake, and it was quite good.
How did you do that?
No, Georgian Bay. Yeah.
What was that? So somebody killed a snake and then said, well, let's eat it, see what it's like?
Yes.
And did you enjoyed it?
Good. Yes. Tasty.
It's surprising.
Quite bony. A lot of little bones. Yeah.
They're like picking up a pike. You know, they're like a bony fish.
Very bony. Yes.
Yeah. But that's some of the fun we've been having with Wild Harvest, is that what I've been doing is taking local foraging, so milkweed or cattail, you know, something like that, and or mussels or freshwater mussels and clams, and then I bring them to an actual chef. Instead of it being a survival meal, he turns it into a delicious meal, and then you go, oh, and then you get over, the thing about survival meals is getting over plate fright. So you weren't worried about eating the snake? That did freak you out?
No. Why would one be worried?
Plate fright. I think a lot of people, they just get scared of what they see on their plate. But as I said, after 4 days of not eating, you get over that pretty quickly. It's looking pretty good over there. I think I'll have some of that.
Yes. Well, it's just it's more or less, it's fairly close to being a fish.
Why your fascination with eating the weird stuff in the wilderness, knowing your childhood, knowing what I know of your childhood, and being raised more or less in the woods, I think, really.
Yeah. Well, it can come in handy. If you ever are stuck, for instance, we were once stuck on Peely Island because the ferry stopped running. So it's good to know what you can go out and dig up off the lawn. Is it not?
Yeah, it's good. actually, it's been a weird couple of years when it comes to all this sort of stuff, survival stuff and all of that. I mean, the short answer is yeah, it's always kind of good to know this stuff. I think most people snicker and they kind of giggle when they think about eating something weird, but until the moment comes.
Until the moment comes. Well, most things that are plants are not going to freak people out too much unless it's, I mean, nettles are actually quite surprisingly good.
Yes, and that's another thing we've been doing with the new film work I've been doing is sort of, you know, I like demystifying a lot of this stuff. I like, if you took the rattlesnake and prepared it nicely and put it on a plate and decorated it and had a little bit of some beans and some, all of a sudden you've demystified the concept of eating a snake. And it's delicious. And it's like nettles, you know, you touch them and they burn you and they're like, who's ever going to eat that? Well, it's not that hard at all, you know, to cook up nettles and enjoy them. Or milkweed, for example. Even though I love praising the milkweed because it's the one that keeps the monarch butterflies alive and it's vital and important, it's also good to know that it's a wild edible, and it's most of the stuff out there is delicious. And actually, you'll be happy to know that my mornings here, I'm back down in America right now. I'm down in Southern Oregon at the moment, and my mornings are spent. I have 23 bird feeders. So every morning is with about 100 birds.
My goodness. So what are you getting in the bird department? You're getting West Coast birds. Stellars, jays, what else?
Yeah, stellar and scrub jays, finches, all kinds of beautiful goldfinches, house wrens. What else am I getting there? Oh boy, various sparrows. Of course, we've got a couple of It's funny. One day I was sitting there with my coffee, and I've got all these birds going crazy all around me, and they're chirping, and my dogs are sleeping, and the cat's sleeping, and it's a cat, by the way, that's useless at catching birds, so she's no threat to them. And the birds froze, and it was like they were frozen in time. And I'm like, what is going on here? This is kind of otherworldly. And I could see them. And they were even on the feeders, not moving.
So it was
and then I realized a peregrine falcon was sitting on the tree, just sitting there like this. And they were all like, you could see them like, don't move. And later on, through the course, later on, I saw him come down, and I think he's using my bird feeders as a falcon buffet, because every once in a while he'd come down, but it's truly the circle of life.
So to close off on the food theme, tell us about rabbit starvation.
Rabbit starvation is a matter of protein poisoning. And it's not so much that if you eat rabbits, you will be protein poisoned. It's if you take in too much protein, lots of it, and zero fat, zero other, and I'm not a scientist this way, but other minerals and fats that are needed to help digest the protein, you get protein poisoning. Well, rabbits are, you know, incredibly lean. So if you're a trapper and you decide to just live off of the rabbits, this is what can happen. You end up with protein poisoning. So you've got to, which is why, by the way, to set that off, you should, in a survival situation, eat the bones, eat the organs, eat the brains. That's where the fat is. But we're squeamish about stuff like that. So if you just stick to the meat, you get protein poisoning. That's how they came up with the nickname rabbit starvation. Would be, you know, people who would live off rabbits but not think to gnaw on the bones and not think to eat the organs.
Yes, well, that's a very good hint. So that's why if you're eating the rabbit, you should also top it off with a little porcupine or some ant eggs.
Yes, indeed. And then you're good to go.
Yes, good. That's wonderful. Lovely to see you. And good luck with your book that's coming out in March. And I've just been asked what I would take to a desert island. So maybe I'll take your book. Don't you think that would be good?
I think that would be wonderful. As soon as I've got the fresh copy, it's on its way to you. It's always lovely to speak with you, Margaret.
Lovely. And thank you so much for having us on the first Fellows show.
This is going to be fun.
Thank you, Margaret and Les. I'm not even sure how to follow that, but the strangest thing I've ever eaten is a Taiwanese hickory scorpion. So I think you need to take Mia to your next camping trip. Just saying. Before, it tasted like Pringles, for those of you care. Okay, before we continue with the show, let's check in on auction bids. It's not too late to show us that you care and help support the Society's amazing programs. And for the first time ever, our annual auction doesn't end tonight. It's actually open until Sunday, November 22nd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So keep on checking in and keep on bidding. A reminder to everyone who participates in the auction, if you are a winning bidder, you will receive a notification by text or email on November 23rd with a secure link to make your payment, and we will arrange for pickup or delivery of the items. You will be contacted directly about experiences by someone from the Society team. So a quick reminder that you can also help the Society maintain its incredible programs by making a donation tonight or anytime at rcgs.org/donate. Now, in just a moment, we'll try something completely different. We are thrilled to have with us this evening much-loved actor, renowned author, and honorary RCGS fellow Michael Palin. Besides being a former cast member of the legendary Monty Python comedy group, Michael is known for traveling the world from the Sahara Desert to the Himalayas to create numerous successful travel series. His latest documentary, Michael Palin in North Korea, was released in 2018 to wide acclaim, and it was followed by a book last year, North Korea Journal. It is a privilege to have him join us momentarily to share a glimpse of life inside the world's most secretive country.
Can there be a country more shrouded in mystery and fear than North Korea? It's a brutal dictatorship. Many say it's intent on nuclear war. A dystopian land of military parades, repression, and barbaric prison camps. But I've been given an unprecedented opportunity to go beyond the politics and visit a country 25 million people call home. To travel 1,300 miles across a land of colourful cities and epic landscapes.
The Rockies or North Korea? Take your pick.
To understand the so-called Hermit Kingdom, I want to engage with its people.
My name is Michael. Michael Palin.
At a unique time in the country's history.
There may be a change in relations between your side and America.
Filming under supervision, I'll need to tread carefully.
A good leader should be able to deal with criticism.
And that's what we are so different from you.
But this will turn out to be the most revealing journey of my life.
Hello, it's Michael Palin here. I'm very, very pleased to be with you on the Fellows Show, virtually. I'm afraid we can't sort of hold hands and clap each other on the back anymore. But anyway, all the very best to you all, and may the show go really well. I'm very excited to just talk a little about my trip to North Korea, which is now sort of almost 18 months since I did the trip. It continues to sort of be shown and be talked about here in the UK, because not many people go to North Korea, particularly at the moment. So I thought what I would do ahead of a talk I'm giving at the Royal Geographical Society in December is to just give a shortened version really to you all about that journey and how remarkable it was. As I say, it's been a while since we went to North Korea. We actually traveled in April and May 2018 with a crew of 6. We had been trying, I say we, that's not myself and the BBC. This time it was a company called Channel 5, one of the smaller companies, and ITN, Independent News, who managed to get it all together. And they liaised with a man called Nick Bonner, who's based in Beijing and has been running a company called Choreo Tours for some years. I think almost quarter of a century. He's been taking people into North Korea. For a year, nothing happened. It was on, it was off, and then suddenly, in that period, at the end of April 2018, there was a great sort of feeling of warmth and sort of determination to talk to the rest of the world on behalf of the North Koreans. They had sent somebody to the Olympics, and I think Kim Jong-un's sister had gone there and slightly upstaged Mike Pence by standing smiling in the background while he was unsmiling in the foreground. But they had made their presence felt that it was open season for friendship rather than missiles. So we were very lucky to be able to get ourselves ready. We traveled from Beijing to Dandong, which is the frontier to on the Yalu River, the frontier with North Korea. And that's when we got onto a North Korean train. We decided to go by train all the way from Beijing, so we were fairly beaten up by the time we got to North Korea. It wasn't a very comfortable night. But the North Korean train, which traveled fairly slowly through the countryside to Pyongyang, we were well looked after. There was a special foreigners coach. I think there probably were about maybe 20 or 30 of us all together on various tours, plus a lot of Chinese businessmen, Chinese being the kind of main economic ally of North Korea. We were given a good meal, good food, and got ourselves to Pyongyang. The feeling as we crossed from the frontier to Pyongyang was very much the feeling I got when I went to China, first of all, in about 1988 and Around the World in 80 Days, which was of a country only just on the edge of transition from a sort of fairly basic agricultural economy to a modern industrial economy. And in fact, in the fields of North Korea, work was all done manually. They were using sort of very non-mechanical equipment to plow the fields and plant the fields. There were roads, but very, very few vehicles on those roads. It was really a feeling of a country that was waiting to be developed. Anyway, we were met at Pyongyang Station by a little team, and there was a number of, I suppose you'd call them minders. They're not employed by the government directly. They're from a company that brings tourists to North Korea. And they were sort of about 5 of them in the background, and 2 young people, So Yang and Chon Chul, who were to be my guides. They were the ones who would actually be showing me around and talking to me. Our director, Neil Ferguson, had actually been already to North Korea just to check it out. And he had resisted all the attempts they were making just to go to the places they felt we should see, the memorials, the monuments. He said, we do want to see how ordinary people in North Korea live, where they eat, where they drink, where they play sport. And to the credit of the people in North Korea, they did try and take us off piste a bit, away from the usual tourist sites. But we were put up in a hotel. We were not really encouraged, I would probably say not allowed, no one tried to make a run for it, really not allowed to leave the hotel unaccompanied. And when we did our first morning's filming, we found that there were various little odd areas where we were not allowed to shoot. We were allowed to walk down the street to a certain point and then stop, and then 100 yards later carry on the walk. And it turned out in the end that this was because there was a gap in the buildings there. The buildings were about to be restored and rebuilt, but they were a bit of a mess because they were working on them at the time. And the North Koreans were not keen for us to see anything that might look messy or undeveloped or half finished. They're very, very, very keen on their image abroad, even though they know very little about what's happening in the rest of the world. There was a communications bubble. We couldn't use our smartphones. All the outside communications were run by the North Koreans. So we were not really able to make contact with the rest of the world most of the time we were there. However, our host turned out to be quite charming and very, very, very friendly. And yet I realized in one of the very first sequences where I had to talk about in the shadow of the two great statues of the two great leaders on Mansu Hill in Pyongyang. And they are about sort of, I don't know, 30 or 40 meters high, enormous statues. There are certain conditions of filming them. You must never film them close up. They must always be filmed in one. The lady who I was talking to, So Yang, was helpful to a certain extent. But then I said to her, which turned out to be a terrible mistake, but you only learn from trying it out. We talked about the two leaders and the great leaders, and she said, yes, well, they are us. We are them. This is the Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, the grandfather and father of the present leader. And they are like, you know, our parents. We are all part of a family. So I said, well, you know, families get on very well, but occasionally they don't, and families can have private rows. So there are ever any occasions when you disagree with the fathers of the family. And that was really a bit like sort of shooting the street with a machine gun. She was very, very put off by that, didn't know what to say, because really, I realized later, you were never going to get a direct reply to a question like that. They were never going to directly criticize their leaders in any shape or form. By the end, I didn't think this was utterly sinister. They weren't terrified, making a gaffe. It was just that they didn't really understand. It was almost as though there was so, I want to avoid the word brainwash because that seems too easy, but there was a general acceptance that you just didn't criticize the leaders. It was a luxury you could not afford. They were a small, angry state, North Korea. They've been occupied by the Japanese for a long time. Then the Americans came in. The South Koreans sort of accepted American protection, and the North Koreans said, no, we're going to be strong, we're going to be independent. So there is a feeling that they have to absolutely stand together. Anyway, one of the remarkable days, and the days I enjoyed most, was May Day. We were there on May Day, and we were allowed to film in one of the great parks just outside Pyongyang, where lots of games were going on. There was drinking, there was music, there was dancing. It was the people having a day off and enjoying themselves, not in a forced way. They really did seem to be completely happy and celebrating, and these were not the elite. And as I walked amongst them, people would offer me a drink. By mid-afternoon, they were all completely flattened by whatever they were drinking. But there was dancing going on. They would sort of, I couldn't speak the language, but we could sort of enjoy each other's company. They were pleased to see that I was pleased to be there. And it was a long day of filming, but it was a day in which I felt there had been no sort of prescribed entertainment laid on for me. I was just able to walk amongst them. And as time went on, I felt that what we managed to achieve was to put our foot in the door and push the door open just very, very gently. But there was no way you could directly go in and say, tell us the truth about this, tell us the truth about that. First of all, you had to win their trust, and they had to trust you. And I think by the end of the second week, and we were there for 2 weeks, quite a long time, we did win that trust. We'd also seen outside of Pyongyang, we'd gone out into the countryside. My 75th birthday was celebrated in a town just outside, well, the other side of the country from Pyongyang, called Wonsan. And on that day's filming, I just happened to be booked in to go and work on a farm, a communal farm, state farm, and found myself, as I say, on my 75th birthday, kneeling in the ground, trying to plant or trying to sort of till a rather poor soily surface, ready for the planting later in the year. And there was a farmer, a wonderful lady with a very strong looking face and all that. She was looking after me and making sure I did it properly, and we dug away for about 10 minutes. And at the end, they asked her, she said, what's he like, this Michael, is, what's it been like working with him? And she just said, no, I mean, not unpleasantly, she just said, he's completely useless. We didn't want anyone like that. He's completely over, doesn't know what he's doing. And as I was only digging in the soil, I can't think quite what I got wrong. Anyway, in the end, we went back to her house. I met her son who was learning English. We had a charming little encounter there, which I felt, again, was very undirected. And in the evening, back in Wonsan, after a very, very long day, the meal was put off, and I was just so hungry, I was so desperate to eat. And in the end, I realized it was put off because they were going to give me a cake, and the cake hadn't quite been finished. And so it was at about sort of 10 minutes to midnight, this wonderful birthday cake appeared with candles on and all that. And they toasted me and all that. So that was a very memorable day. We went up to the very north to Mount Pektu, which is the the holiest mountain in Korea, actually, not just north, but North and South Korea. And that's really out on a limb. It's pretty wild and cold up there. And as we went from the airport to our hotel, we saw shadowy figures working. This was in the middle of 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And suddenly we emerged from the trees, and there was a great building site with hundreds and hundreds of people working on this building site. And later I asked, what were they doing? He said, we're building a new city here. And this was the first evidence I really saw of people being put to work. I don't know what they got paid, or whether it was slave labor or not, but they were working incredibly hard and incredibly late, building this city long into the night. And one of our guides said, they're called the shock brigades, and shock brigades sort of based on the old sort of Russian communist model. They're sent in and they're given a certain amount of time to finish the building that they do, and they do finish it. They just bring more people in if they have to work harder. So a bit like the way China was being rebuilt, I saw North Korea beginning to be rebuilt, and just recently I saw that the city had been finished. And it looked pretty good, and it was very, very smart and had all the facilities. But at the time, it seemed rather sinister to see this vast army working long into the night to build a city right up in the north, miles away from anywhere. Anyway, but then back to Pyongyang, and we saw some of the most modern tower blocks they built there. Again, they built, I think, about 10 or 20 tower blocks in the period of a year, and they look very nice and they're all glittering. Cynics say, well, no one lives in them. Well, we actually went in and interviewed a lady who was living there. Things did not look quite as bad as I'd expected, but most of all, it didn't seem to be an atmosphere of martial control. There were very few people, police on the streets with guns or anything like that. It just seemed to be a national commitment to do what the Kim family had told them to do, and they would back them all along the way. Now, there must have been compulsion. There must have been probably very cruel punishments for people who didn't toe the line. But they didn't seem to be as angry or as unhappy as I thought it might be, and nor even as secretive. They were quite happy when we were there to talk to us. My guide, So Yang, and I ended up talking about, not on camera, I have to say, but about her love of English authors like Charles Dickens, and she'd read Emma and Jane Austen and all that. So when the time came for us to leave, I have to say that all of us in the crew felt that we wanted to go back again. We'd like to try and build on those fragile friendships we'd made, because there is something indomitable, I wouldn't say heroic, something indomitable about that little state and about the way it wants to establish itself in the world. What they do at the top, the elite and how they work, I really don't know and I can't talk about. And I imagine that some very harsh and unpleasant decisions are made. But on the street and in the bars and the cafes that we were able to go to, and seeing people playing sports and all that, they were just like anybody else, really. And so, as I say, we flew away feeling not only have we done 2 weeks of very good work and got a lot of material, but that we would probably maybe be invited back one day. However, after that week, when Donald Trump was supposed to have the summit and all that, after those few hopeful days of communication and connection, the whole thing fell apart, and the second Hanoi conference, I think, was very unsuccessful, and now there is mistrust again, and they do sulk very well, the North Koreans, and I think they're, as I say, an angry state, but they have a lot to be angry about. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. What an amazing journey, and how fortunate and entertaining for us to have you share some of those incredible stories with us. Now, it's certainly not North Korea, but we do have a wild opportunity in our online auction, a behind-the-scenes tour of the Toronto Zoo, led by its CEO and RCGS fellow, Dolph de Jong. Please visit rcgsauction.ca to check in on our silent auction. And thank you to Her Honor, the Honourable Elizabeth Dowdeswell, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Adrian Sutherland, Mario Rigby, Dr. Roberta Bondar, Sir Michael Palin, and again to Les Stroud and Margaret Atwood for all joining us tonight. A final thank you also to all of our sponsors tonight, particularly KCK Global Limited for serving as our show's presenting sponsor. And thank you to all of our partners, friends, and volunteers for helping to make this a truly special evening, and to the RCGS staff who helped pull together this magnificent event. Thank you again to everybody for watching. I hope you all had fun with me tonight and enjoyed this incredible evening. I look forward to seeing all of you in person in my hometown of Ottawa, Canada next year. Merci encore à tous de votre présence ce soir. J'attends avec impatience de vous revoir en personne à Ottawa l'année prochaine. Good night and bonsoir. Thank you.